Welcome to Pioneer Portraits. I am your host, Darla Miller. Join me as we dig into the university experience of Malone students and alumni and hear more about what challenges, encourages, and inspires them. Hi, and welcome again to Pioneer Portraits. I am excited to be doing a homecoming edition with some of our illustrious alumni. And so I'm anxious to get started and talk with them. We have Clark and Marva Hoops here. And Marva, you are Marva Anderson Hoops.
That's right.
And today's a big day for Marva because you're getting the Alumni of the Year award tonight, correct?
Sharing it with my brother, yes.
That's exciting.
Stan Anderson. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And I'm interested to find out, I'm sure I will tonight, why we're sharing it with each other. Is it a family affair tonight?
I believe so, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And Clark, I think we all love you on this campus, even though we don't know it, because it is my understanding that you are responsible for Wi-Fi on the campus.
I'm responsible for many things. I'm glad that's what you remember.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I was worked in IT for 16 years. I was the IT director. Yes.
Wonderful.
Very good.
And also our phone system. Maybe we don't like that as much, but we love the Wi-Fi, so we're good. No, our phone system is great. I'm kidding you. So then we have on this side of the table Deb and Ron Robinson.
That's right.
And I'm glad it's right. So you guys are 78 grad and 76. And both of you served in alumni. Deb served officially in alumni as our director of alumni. I keep saying the same word over and over. And I know that you served at every single event that she did practically here on campus. And so they told me that you were an honorary member of the advancement team.
Yes.
So I want you guys to do the talking, not me. We love Malone. And we ask all of our students when they come in, what is it that brought you to Malone? So I'm going to start with that question. Why did you guys choose Malone? And Clark, why don't you start us off?
I chose Malone because it was the church-affiliated college at the time. It was Friends affiliated. I attended Damascus Friends Church. And I think what put me over the edge was two things. One was the fellow who recruited me was a professor. His name was David Blossom. And he visited my home several times, talked to my parents. And the other thing that influenced me was Rick Sams, who was a high school friend, said, "Oh, I'm going to Malone. I heard you were going. Let's be roommates." And I went, I guess I could do that. So
Wonderful.
that's why I ended up at Malone.
And how about you, Ron?
What brought me here was, I would say, a rich family heritage, not only from the standpoint that my father and my uncles and my brothers and most of my sisters went here as well, but even some distant relation to the Malones, actually, and just denominationally, it was our affiliated college, and so I was looking forward to coming to an institution where I felt, I'd receive a great education. So,
Wonderful. Deb?
Well, my dad moved us here when I was 13 as he became the chair of fine arts at Malone. And I was not happy to leave where I had lived all my life, but it didn't take long to fall in love with the Malone community and family, really. The faculty and staff and their children, all the activities on campus, and being able to go to things there were shows and plays and being in music. It was just wonderful. So I chose Malone, even though it was where my dad worked, but I did not major in music.
What was your major?
Education.
Education.
Mm-hmm.
And you were also education?
I was, yes.
And you guys both taught after you left?
We did, yeah.
And Marva?
Well, my story is similar to Deb's. My father moved us here from South America, where he had been serving, and we had been as a family in Colombia and Ecuador and Dominican Republic. And when I was a sophomore in high school, my parents decided, oh, maybe we need to move back to the States. So he applied at a number of different universities and was accepted at Malone, and we moved here. And so I was a prof's kid. And as Deb has shared, we loved coming to campus, and a lot of the profs and their families attended First Friends Church. And often on a Sunday, we would go out to the Sweden House smorgasbord and have Sunday lunch together with other profs and their families, and it really was a large family. So really there was no question about where I was going to attend university, and I have never regretted it. So that's been a really wonderful aspect of my history and my family.
All right, so I'm assuming you all met each other here at Malone. Tell us about your first inkling that you were going to date each other.
Ah. It's kind of a funny story because at the time my girlfriend's mother was a registrar, and I knew Ron from the summer. I had met him in the summer and had kind of an interest in him. And I knew his brothers who were in chorale with us. And so I got his information of where he would be on campus at all times. And I kind of kept showing up and saying hi. And he was very kind.
That's good, because now all of that would be illegal,
Yeah.
but that's okay. Stalking and sharing information.
It was shameless.
But it worked then.
Yes, yes.
Take you very long to notice her?
Not at all. Not those big brown eyes and all of that. No, I noticed her before school, but it was just, I didn't give it much hope because I was just a freshman, But anyway, the Lord saw fit to allow us to come together, and it was great. So
Yeah, and I joke about the way that I kept trying to get his attention, but actually the Lord had placed something in my heart about this guy, and he had a faith that was so real. And I had been around a lot of people, but he loved God. He loved to talk about God, and this was so attractive to me.
Wonderful.
Really was.
All right, Hoops, it's your turn.
Well, we were a choir tour romance. So
Okay.
we ended up sitting together on the bus, and it was a long ride from Boston to back to Canton, and we talked a lot and got to know each other better. And actually, that was my freshman year. We broke up about 3 different times. But then when we were on the Orient tour with a chorale, then some friends of us, I was with a group of girls and he was with a group of guys, and we were walking the streets of Tokyo our first night there. And all of a sudden I looked around and everybody else was gone except Clark. They had conspired to, we were broken up at that time, and they said, all of a sudden I realized, I don't remember the way back to the hotel. So I had to talk to Clark, and we did talk and said, okay, we're not going to do this breaking up anymore. If we're going to get together, we need to stay together, and we did. And so that was the beginning of wonderful years of our marriage. So
Wonderful. So
But-
you guys, I'm sorry. Go.
Clark has
Do you have a
another
different-
adding.
I first saw Marva many years ago, a couple years before Malone. Her parents went around singing at different churches, and they visited Damascus Friends. And I saw this cute gal playing the guitar up there, and I said, wow, she looks really cute. I want to get to know her. And then a couple years later, I saw her and her brother Paul singing at yearly meeting. And I was in yearly meeting, sitting in the back, and I go, there's that cute girl again. I'm going to find her somehow, some way. And then being in the choir, later on I was president, and I always enjoyed looking down at the front row, and there was this cute alto that always sat right in front and smiled at me. I smiled back, and oh yeah. And then the choir tour kicked in, and the rest is history. 47 years later, we're still going.
Well, congratulations. So heading towards 50. Actually, I found out today from you guys that you all got married the same year, the bicentennial year.
Yes.
So you guys have been friends for a long time. And I'd like to hear one of your favorite memories, other than meeting each other, but one of your favorite memories of Malone. It can be a joint memory, or it can be something that each of you have separate.
Probably the memory I treasure most is being in chorale and performing He's Alive. That was such an instrumental action. It told the story of the life of Christ, his death and his resurrection. And as we sang that to many different congregations and many different places, it just really drove home the reality and the truth of the gospel and what Christ had done. And being a part of a group that did that really bonded us together. And many of our friends that we have maintained contact with over the years are from that group, from the chorale group. Those became our lifelong friends.
I would say very similar memory was Malone College chorale at the time. And but another memory, since you took that one, Marva, would be the times that we sang in community chorus and around the Christmas holidays, and how that always started that season off so well for us and our family later time. But always looking forward to those opportunities we had to come together and worship through music. That was great.
Wonderful. And was your dad the director?
Yes.
Oh,
at the
yes.
time?
But I still had to audition.
Good.
And
Did
in
you make
Mercy,
it?
I was allowed in. I think it was the
Did
Mercy
you make it the
role.
first time? That's funny.
No, those were great years. I would have to say one of my favorite memories are my education classes, because I felt so empowered through the professors who were very encouraging, very realistic about providing. They wanted to provide realistic experiences that would prepare you for the classroom. And I remember talking to a girlfriend about my Malone experience and saying, well, I went to so-and-so's office, Dr. so-and-so, and she said, I'm so jealous. She had gone to a different Christian college, and she said, I never would have gone to my professor's office like that. And I said, really? And so we felt that they very much knew who we were very much on our side, and they just cared, and they answered any questions, faith questions. I remember crying with a professor one time. He had just lost his wife. I had just lost my grandfather. I mean, they were just beautiful bonds. They were very caring, and it's, to this day, it's still a hallmark, I believe, of the Malone faculty.
I agree. I think our Malone faculty they just care about students, and they have relationship with students in ways that a lot of schools, including Christian schools that I know of, just don't have the same way. But that's wonderful. So you just told a little bit about this, how your Malone education prepared you for your professional roles. Can you give us some other concrete examples of how you feel like, oh yeah, that thing that I learned was so important in what I ended up doing?
Me.
Clark, we're all looking at you.
Majored in business and math, and at the time Malone had 3 computer courses, and I really, really liked them. And later I did an internship in the records office. We have that records office thing going. But the fellow who worked there, who was the registrar, was a farmer. He was a math major. He said, "Why don't you come and write some programs for me?" So I did. And later on, I applied for his job. He resigned to go back to farming. But that prepared me. Later, I worked at Ohio Edison. And because of my business background, I could talk to the accountants, because we had accountants and engineers, and I ended up being on systems that dealt with accountants, so I could speak the lingo, and that really, really helped me to communicate, to know what to do and how to do it. And again, all of it kind of just fit together, and I was prepared to do the assignments that I was given. And I had good profs and good experiences here as well.
I'm going to tell a story, which normally I just ask questions, but really quickly, I'm going to tell on Marva.
Oh,
My son went through a ministry degree here,
yes,
and he did children's ministry.
yes.
And recently, he told me, and I'm going to get weepy, sorry. Recently, he told me that the things that you taught him in class were the most valuable things that he has had in the ministry, and he has walked into a children's pastor's role and said, "Oh no, we need to implement this safety protocol and this and this." And everyone's always so impressed by what he knows, and he said, "Everything I knew I learned from Marva Hoops."
Oh,
So you were recognized because of that last year, Marva, as the adjunct professor of the year. I think maybe that's the only adjunct professor of the year. Have we given more of those awards, or is
yes.
that just the most memorable one? But we are very grateful as a family for what you've done.
oh.
How do you feel what you learned in school prepared you to prepare our students?
Wow, really so much. I agree with Deb about our education profs. I majored in elementary education and Spanish, but I felt that the education that I got to educate children was so valuable and so practical and helpful that I was able to teach fourth grade for 5 years. And then after our children were born and I was an at-home mom for 8 years, Carol Williams at First Friends said, "Why don't you come to the church and use your education background for the church?" And I thought, oh, yeah, I could do that. So I started doing that, and it started very part-time and eventually went to full-time. But after I had been in that position a few years, and my brother Paul said to me, "Are you making this Christian education thing a calling? Is it a calling for you?" I said, "Yes, I believe it is." He said, "Then you should be the best Christian educator you can be, and go get your master's." And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe I should do that. And so I talked with Larry Reinhardt, who was the dean of the master's program here in Christian ministry, and enrolled in that. And that made a huge difference in ministry for me. I felt like now I could combine the education training and the ministry training and be effective in the church and what I was doing. And then after that, Bill Quigley came to me and said, "You know, if you got your doctorate, it might open some doors for you." So I did, and it did open doors, and was invited to come on staff here at Malone as a Christian education specialist, and have spent the last 10 years teaching in the Department of Bible Theology and Ministry. So it's been a blessing to be trained and educated and propelled out into the world and coming back here, circling back to Malone.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to say, too, as well, the professors were so key to everything. I remember being in education as well, and Dr. Charles Guscott was one of the professors that just really stood out to me. He not only taught well, but he actually made a decision on his own that he needed to step away for a while to actually get back into the education system to see what it was all about, and came back, and we experienced a much greater learning experience as a result of that. And I remember his thing was teaching us how to write behavioral objectives, which we had to do for lesson planning, and mine were so detailed compared to a lot of others, and it was just what he instilled in us. It was a quality education that we received here. Malone was so, and still is, respected in the education field in all the surrounding areas. So.
Wonderful. Well, as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you guys for some advice for people. Your era of graduates, and I've met a lot in the past, this today even, you guys seem to have such tight connections to this community, to each other, but to the Malone community as a whole, to former professors, to current professors. Why do you think your generation of students has that connection?
I feel a lot of it had to do with the fact that Malone was an opportunity, a formation opportunity to develop community. Corral, we all were in Corral, and so that did unify us so much so. Being involved in Malone kept bringing us back every year because we wanted to experience that again. And so getting connected, establishing a great career background, but getting involved in extracurricular activities, opportunities where you can connect with other people is so key. And that's what I believe really helped to form such a tight-knit group that keeps coming back. We see it even with the sports teams. They come back year after year, and everybody bonded. It was all about spending life together and going through life together, praying together, doing things like that as well. So.
Another thing that bonded us was going on trips together. Mm-hmm. So not only the Corral trips, but other trips. I participated in a Mexico trip with Spanish majors, and that was very significant. And a Colombia trip, and my dad led all those trips, and loved doing it, and welcomed students, and it was just a bonding time with others.
Wonderful. So, if you have something to leave for our current students, some bit of advice that you can give, what would that be?
For me, it's what my debate professor told me. The key is involvement, and really to echo what Ron said is to get involved. And I got involved in the choir, and I loved it. I look forward to singing. Practice was at noon every day, and I just loved it. It was like my high point of the day. It's like, what are we going to do today? But to be in other groups, I was in Student Senate. One year I said, I'm going to join every club I can join. I joined Interlingua. I joined the Rotary Young Republicans Club. Anything that met, I joined. And it was fun just to get in some different groups and to develop relationships with them. And again, Ron hit the nail on the head. Get involved and develop relationships, get out of your comfort zone, get involved with the profs. I remember going to Dr. Stevens' house, and we used to build floats at homecoming, and we went to his house and worked on a float. And of course, we had pizza later and all that, but He was a biology professor. I was a math major, but he still cared about me, that type of thing. But students need to get involved, not stay in their dorm rooms and play on the internet or play games or all that, but to get out and go to the library. We met a lot of people at the library. We had some people that I don't think they ever studied. They just kind of cruised around talking to people. And
Well, and now they can go to the library basement and play games.
well, that's
There
true.
you go.
I can do both, but
Awesome.
develop friendships.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Deb. Do you want to say anything?
No, I was thinking if I could give advice, I would say trust in the Lord. Give yourself time with the Lord every day and know that He loves you. He wants to speak to you. I believe that we are all so close because our relationships went to a very deep level. It went beyond who we were and what we did. It went to being brothers and sisters together in Christ. And God has a wonderful plan for students, and He is so good at making it happen even when we get in the way sometimes. I'm a testimony to that.
I am too. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a great weekend. And congratulations, Marva. It is well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining us today for Pioneer Portraits. I hope you will pray for Malone University. Send us students. Come visit our campus and speak well of us. If you like what you hear, share this episode on your social media or tell a friend the old-fashioned way.